Our top focus, it's day 4 of the Nepal tragedy, where the death toll now has crossed the 4,200 mark. Even as rescue operations intensify, the country is witnessing a massive shortage of food, water, electricity and medicine. And 3 days later, Nepal government has started a Quake Helpline, the number for which is 1234. India's Operation Maitri will also continue in full swing, with the Indian Air Force choppers speeding up rescue operations to remote areas. Now, Indian Army doctors will provide their first comprehensive health report, which becomes critical at this hour as fear of an epidemic looms large on Nepal. Nearly 5,400 Indians have been evacuated from Nepal by the Indian Air Force. People were evacuated from 5 worst affected districts on Monday. They were Gorkha, Dading, Rasua, Sindhulpal Chowk and Dholaka. Meanwhile, hundreds of affected citizens still await evacuation to safer zones. The Health Ministry of Nepal has sounded an epidemic and health warning due to the fear of waterborne diseases. Let's see if we can quickly go across to Rahul Kamal, who now joins us from Kathmandu. Rahul, if you can hear me, just take us through these entire rescue and relief operations that are, that have been initiated by the Nepalese authorities in, aid and assistance with say the Indian Air Force as well as other agencies that are coming forward. Obviously, this is going to be the big challenge at this moment.
Sanket, it's day 4 of these rescue operations. Last night we saw a lot of relief material coming in also from China. The challenge now is to ensure that this reaches the most affected areas. One of the big problems that are being faced here in Kathmandu is the overlap in the relief that's being sent by different countries. Each one doing what he thinks needs to be done, sending what they can. But I spoke to senior sources in the Nepalese government. They're saying that they're getting a lot of effort duplicated. They've also put out a whole list of things that they actually need. They need orthopedic doctors, they need proper tents, they need bottled water, they need medicines. They're saying here they need experts in sewage and sanitation. They're saying, first please understand from us before unilaterally just sending choppers across or sending transport aircraft across. Understand what our requirements are and then try and meet those requirements. That's what the Nepalese government wants. And also because there are different countries at play over here. There's Chinese aircraft coming in, Pakistani aircraft, Indians, Americans, French, German, the Israelis. There's a lot of overlap, no synergy at all in the coordinated global effort. And remember, the capacity of the Nepalese government itself is rather limited to be able to deal with a devastation of this magnitude. Those are, Sanket, some of the big problems that are being faced on day 4. They've set up a national emergency response center. Senior ministers in the government were working there till late into the night. I saw some of those meetings taking place. They're focused, they're doing what they can, but it's just the scale of the tragedy that confronts them which really makes all these efforts seem rather limited in comparison to what is actually required.
Absolutely. Rahul, if you could just show us that, we can see a building behind you where the shops are completely shut. Just a short while back, Jugal and you were telling us that people fear to come and do their, go about their daily lives because they want to be with their loved ones, because that scare is pretty much on as far as those aftershocks are concerned. Who knows if something of that magnitude hits again?
Sanket, wherever we've traveled all across Kathmandu and to the rural areas, people simply don't want to stay in their buildings. Let me try and show you some of these buildings. Several of them have big cracks. If you see that building over there, I don't know if you can see it just yet, there are cracks that have developed in several of these buildings. Some of them are pakka structures, some of them are weak structures. Now in the old dilapidated buildings, people being concerned, being afraid, I understand. But just the fear, the paranoia of these 2 big earthquakes, the 7.9 on the Richter scale and the next day the 6.7 on the Richter scale, the tremors were so immense that people just don't want to take a risk. They want to huddle up with their family, they want to be in community centers, they want to spend the night out in the open, and it's quite nippy here in Kathmandu at this time. It's not as if it's warm weather, it's quite nippy, but despite that they don't want to take the risk. What's also happening, Sanket, is through the night there are minor aftershocks, and these aftershocks happen at infrequent intervals, but they keep happening, and as a consequence you're not able to sleep properly at night. So what happens is you wake up suddenly thinking that there is a tremor. Sometimes that aftershock is for real. Sometimes you've just imagined that there's been an aftershock and you wake up violently and look around only to be told that there has been no aftershock. Sometimes you think that there wasn't an aftershock, but somebody tells you, did you feel that aftershock? So it starts playing mind games with you, and that really is scary. People haven't seen something like this, and they simply don't want to take a risk. There's some old aged people, like this building, it's a 3-4 story building, so nobody wants to be on top. They're all in the community spaces, the open areas, in the lounge. There were people sleeping out in the open. Let me see if I can try and show that to you. Can you just come here with me, Yogi, please? So there were people who would rather sleep out. You can still see the mattresses. The people, of course, are no longer there. So they were sleeping here, Sanket, right under this and over there in that open space. These are customers who are here at the hotel who ought to be staying in their rooms, but they simply don't want to take a chance. So they put out mattresses through the night all across these places, and they had people staying here. They simply don't want to take a risk. They're too scared. The customers who've come from outside, and also the locals over here, they simply are in no mood to take a risk. And that fear is working on them. That's plaguing them. I asked some people that, now that there hasn't been an earthquake, why don't you open your shops and try and get back to normal? Everything that you've got over there is rotting. Why don't you open your shops? They said, "No. For a few days, we don't want to take a risk. Our lives are more important than making some money." That's the fear. That's the paranoia, which will take some time to get over. It's not easy to get over an earthquake of this magnitude. Remember, everyone we've been speaking to tells us that the buildings in front were shaking violently when this earthquake took place. They weren't able to walk down the stairs. That's how severe the magnitude was. And that's really a fear and a paranoia that's crept into people, which is restricting what they're able to do. Some shops, though, have opened. You see that Kirana store right in front? That's open. Some small restaurants have opened. The ATM behind us, Yogi, just show this ATM, please. The ATM behind us is now functional. The Wi-Fi services are back on. Telecommunication isn't quite as big a problem as it was, but sewage is a problem. Sanitation is a problem. They don't have, in Kathmandu, it's not so bad, but in the rural areas, they don't have enough water, they don't have enough food. Those are some of the problems that Nepal is dealing with at this time.
Absolutely. Rahul, before we let you go, so that you can get us more reports through the course of the day, the team down there, including you, you have been getting us reports which are, quite painful to see. The heart-wrenching stories of, a man who's just expecting somehow, hoping against hope, that his children will come out alive. Also the story of a man whose entire family of 6 has been killed. He's the lone survivor. He says this is worse than death. Just take us through some of these reports, and also through the course of the day, where exactly will you be going, where will the team be going, and what sort of reports can we expect?
So we've got reporters all across Nepal. There's wallpaper coverage. We're looking at what's happening in the villages. We've got teams traveling with the NDRF. We've got teams traveling with the Air Force, with the Nepali Army, going into the areas that are back and beyond. Because I think the Kathmandu story is being told widely by the international media and the Indian journalists. The real devastation has happened in the rural areas, where the quality of construction is very poor, where the damage has been far greater, where rescue efforts haven't yet been able to reach. We're trying to reach out to those places so people understand what's happening on the ground, so they're able to mobilize their rescue efforts. I will be traveling just immediately after this live shot with the NDRF to one of the areas. The focus right now, Sanket, is on rescue. They're seeing if there are people who are alive, who are stuck, who can be brought out, who can be given medical aid. In the immediate next step, the effort will shift to relief. They'll try and have water, medicines, doctors, hospitals sent across to the people who need them. What isn't being thought of yet is rehabilitation. How do you build these, how do you construct these buildings again? What do you do different? How do you try and emulate Japan, where there are bigger earthquakes but much lesser damage? So those are things that the Nepalese government simply hasn't had the bandwidth to think about, but they will have to start thinking about it soon. We've got correspondents all over. There are now Israeli hospitals that are being opened, where Israeli army units have come in. They're trying to take care of the locals. The NDRF is doing a commendable job. They're going out, working with the locals, and what's constantly being emphasized is that India is only trying to help the Nepalese government. It's not an Indian rescue or relief operation. This is a Nepali relief and rescue operation. We are just force multipliers. The level of synergy and understanding that exists between the Indian and the Nepali army really needs to be seen to be believed. You've covered several of these operations, Sanket. You've seen how, even within Indian agencies, there's a spirit of one-upmanship, the intent to try and prove that you're doing a better job than the other guy.
Absolutely.
Over here, the respect and the fraternal ties are so deep and so old that we're really seeing the Indian and the Nepali army come together in a way that I never thought two different armies could ever work together. Just so much respect, and that really has been one of the hallmarks. And you have to see the selfless spirit of the Nepali army men going out, cleaning streets, helping people, doing the kind of stuff you don't expect armies to do. We've seen the Indian army do it on several occasions. The Nepali army, through this operation, showing just how similar they are to the Indian army.